Yo, what's up guys? Another Giants video. Ab is hard, a little bit easier to build. There's no Luna and there's no Deborah in this one. Plus, it's not my account, so it's probably easier to rune in that case as well. It's the account for Artenix, so thanks a lot for letting me show on your account. And what is the team if you don't want to go for a Luna, you don't want to go for a Deborah? Well, let's look at it. He told me that this team is 34sec Avg. And I've thought about this team before. I haven't actually made a video on it. I thought about runing it up for making a video. But of course, it's a lot easier if someone else runes it up for me. I can show it on their account. Plus, the rune quality is a lot, probably more maintainable. I haven't looked at it yet. So let's actually look at the runes. What do we have over here? That's a lot of attack though. I'm not going to lie. That is a lot and a lot of attack. Not bad. I like it. I like it. Artifact wise, 16 on water, not too bad. We got some over there, some over there. Not too bad, not too bad. Triple fighter over here, pretty easy. Yes, 100 rest can help, can help. In this case, you're kind of lacking the crit rate to always crit, but I guess it is fine. I'm also not sure if he has to be that one tick faster. I don't think so. This one being like 85 or 122, that doesn't really change anything, or 84 it was. I don't exactly remember. It was 84, but not too bad for damage either. How is this one looking like? That's a lot lower on the crit rate, but that is fine because of the... Oh wait, the crit rate is of course fine because of the critty thing of that thing. That makes a lot of sense. Wait, isn't your crit rate a little bit too high then? No, just a little bit, like 6 over. That's totally fine. This one, okay, this 292, that's... I was saying lower on rune quality, but the man actually has some legit runes. Wow, it is rune 32 versus 22. That's okay. I would take my words back. People have good runes. This is actually a pretty well runed one. But yeah, once again, as mentioned, no Luna and no Deborah. So how is this one on the left side? 14. I can use some upgrades over here, I would say. And this one, I kind of like this one actually. This one kind of makes sense in every kind of shape or way. But let's have a look at this team. What does it do? How does it work? So the idea is pretty much the same thing as the other team. Well, we start off perfectly with a resistance from that, so we're gonna have a fill run from that, or not necessarily a fill run, just a slower run. That's just something that happens if Prida doesn't armor break and Teshar decides not to go for the same target. You can have like weird interactions. However, this one is actually slightly less bound to those weird interactions, mainly because with the other team you really do care about that your Luna has the right skills at the right moment. In this case, it doesn't really matter all too much. So in this case, you could have that your homunculus decides to go twice derp, still derping, I don't mind. We're going to have somewhat of a worse run right there. Are we going to fill on this first run right away? Let's see. Okay, it does actually survive that. That's not too bad. Reviving the bird, going for that skill, still killing. So I definitely do like this team. It has a bunch more fail safes than the Luna team in general. Definitely it can go down to this time, which takes a pretty long time. But I think if the teaming or the whole team goes right, you are looking at like 28-second average, or like 28 seconds. And the average will of course be slower than that because of runs that like we just saw. But in general, I do think that this is a pretty solid team like throughout. Also, if your Teshar does manage to kill like the middle boss straight up, it's not bad. Also, if your Teshar manages to kill the whole wave in there, also not bad. Because there's quite some people that do not have Luna. So I guess this is probably the best way. That's the third skill. Nice. Okay, still doesn't kill. So he actually has to go for an S2 or S3 in the first one, where he gets the turn. And then in the second one also for some kind of skill. So you do have some things going on here. I'm not entirely sure if this would be 34-35 average though. Because I could see this homunculus derp quite a lot. And then you often go towards like that 40 seconds, 45-ish seconds. There's no other good unit that does a lot of damage, which can like prep the damage for him. Maybe like you could use like a Lin instead of a Luna, and then instead of that bird in this case. However, it's still kind of same if you use this specific team. So I would say that if you do not have, because would I say use this team over a Leia team with Galleon? Maybe. Kind of depends like how often that one fails for you as well. Because a Leia team with Galleon would potentially do pretty good. So this is where we have the good rotation. And you do have the attack buff in the second round of your homunculus. So your homunculus does do quite some damage extra on that. So now we have 29 run. I would say that this would be probably faster on average than the first team, or one of the earlier teams that I was running with the Galleon, the Leia, and that kind of stuff. Would it be, well, it's not going to be faster than Luna, that's for sure. Like, if you have the Luna, for sure use the Luna. But as I mentioned, apparently there's quite some people that do not have the Luna. Then you could use this. Do you need good rune quality to actually showcase this? Yes. I would say that the runes on that this person has are pretty good, actually. Not gonna lie, they're pretty darn good. So, like a 292 set on crit damage on the Homunculus is not something easy to get. The 3k attack on the Teshar is not easy to get. Could you get away with lower rune quality on this team? Yes, I do think so. I definitely do think so. It's just going to be slower, maybe slightly less consistent. But in all honesty, I think for consistency's sake, this team might actually be more consistent than the Luna team. And hear me out on that one. It's the same thing as I kept saying on the Deborah. A lot of people are like, oh, everyone needs like a Deborah. We need Deborah HOH. Everyone needs to have the rights to get a Deborah, blah, blah. Deborah is nice, but to be honest, in this team, I do not even use a Deborah. And in most teams, Deborah is speeding up the run, but also making the run less consistent. So if you don't care about less consistency in your runs, yeah, definitely Deborah is better. But if you care about consistency in your runs, most of the time Deborah performs worse. And that is also one of the reasons why I removed the Deborah from my team in this case, because it's just less consistent. Is it maybe still the best options for the Dragons team? Probably. Like on average, that one probably, because you have a bunch more failsafes. But the issue is you pretty much give a slot to one of the units that is just purely passive. And the S1 is useless of Deborah. The S2 is inconsistent as hell as well. So it's just the passive, and the other 4 units pretty much have to do everything. They have to land the armor breaks, they have to do the branding, they pretty much have to do anything. Unless you're working with some perfect AI setup where Deborah actually does do a lot. But in this case, I would say that Deborah definitely is nice. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying Deborah is terrible. Absolutely not. But do you really need a Deborah for all of those kind of things? No. Like, let's say you have the Serath team of Raxus. Yes, that one does need a Deborah. But then you also need a crazy Serath with probably 12 sets of fight to even get close to that damage. Or at least 9. But probably 12 for most people. Like, he has some crazy runes, that's for sure. I'm pretty sure I wouldn't even be able to build that. But yeah, that's definitely a thing that I think Deborah's somewhat overhyped. People say like, oh, I can speed farm without a Deborah. Well, you have this team, you have the Luna version of it. The Luna version of it is faster than and more consistent than any other Giants team unless you add LD5s. So for that reason, I would say that this is probably the... You still need the Tesher. That's definitely a thing. Like, without the Tesher, you're not going to be able to build this team, and there's no replacement for the Tesher in this specific team. So it's pretty close to free-to-play, but of course, I do know Tesher's not free-to-play. If you want to have a true free-to-play team, you probably have to go along the lines of the Galleon, Akamamir, Prilia, Homunculus, and then I would say the... which add probably Varimals to make it safest. That will be the 5 where I say, okay, this is the fastest you can do with full free-to-play units, because the Homunculus is free-to-play, and also Akamamir is free-to-play because you can get it without spending, technically. So technically you can get all units without spending, but it's without actual summoning that you, let's say summoning with more chance. Like Akamamir in the end is still kind of RNG, but you can do as much guild content as you want at some point, and you will get it eventually. I think there's even still the thing that if you summon 5 Ifrits, you can choose 1 Ifrit or something. I remember there being like an event, or like, not an event, I think it's an achievement or something like that. I'm not sure if that's still in the game, but I thought that was somewhere in the game somewhere. But yeah, let's say I did that one like ages ago, so I don't even fully remember. But yeah, those are a lot more obtainable than this, but I would say that this team is definitely very solid. I'm gonna let it run for like the whole 10 runs. Let's see how fast it goes. And we actually did see that we have a pretty bad start with like a bunch of bad runs, and then it started running good all the time. And that's also where I say, like, if you test a certain team, like a lot of people probably had that idea when you tested a certain team, you tested it all day, it works all day, you log in tomorrow and starts failing like 6 times in a row. And you're like, what the actual fuck just happened? Well, I would say that this game is pretty streaky in like how the RNG works. That's just my opinion on it. I don't have any proof for it, but That's also what I can see on like RTA ladder. People sometimes they climb like 100 points and the next day they drop 200 points. Do they draft better or worse? I don't really know, but yeah, is it kind of RNG dependent? Probably. So same thing as you do Arena Rush. Sometimes you have one of those days your Galleon lands everything, and some of the days you have your Galleon lands nothing. And then in the comments you're gonna be like, does your Galleon ever land everything? But you kind of get the idea. So we're looking at 35-second average. And I definitely do think that this is a very, very solid team. So if you have that Tesha, if you have the rune quality, because the rune quality is not that easy to get. However, in the Luna team, technically you need 3 rage sets. In this team, you only need 2 rage sets. So that makes things slightly easier in there. There are some Abyss, what are they called? Ancient runes in here. So that does upgrade the kind of stuff that you have over here. But I would say that the Tesha can definitely be lowered in damage and you're still good to go. This thing, however, does need to have like proper damage because you want this unit to push itself into the threshold where the second hit, let's say if you do an S3, you always want to have that attack buff version to do like an S2 or an S3 or anything like that as well. So for this one, I would say you need pretty decent damage. 292 is definitely good. But I think if you lower this towards like 270 or something, or 260 even, I think this team would still work, still be consistent. But a little bit slower. You have more chances of it failing. And another interesting note on this team is that you have the potential for extra fight sets. So this is triple fight and both birds are triple fight. Whereas with the Luna team, of course, Luna is a damage set, your Homunculus is a damage set, and your Tesha is a damage set, so this technically gives you 24% extra attack, which is pretty nice. But let's actually look at the speed tuning. What are the minimum speeds that we're looking at? So I added in the speeds of the team that we just seen. And we can see already here that it's a little bit too fast. So the minimum on the Aprilia would be this, if I'm not mistaken. Nope, it's the 84. Minimum on the Tesha, I think, is the 48. Could you go 47? You can go 47, so you have that one. In this case, we do have to work with how much does it boost as well. The Konamiya could, I guess, be a little bit slower too, if I'm not mistaken. Let's just see if we go for the minimum speeds on everything. It might be that the enemy boss is going to be too fast, and therefore he has it speed up a little bit. But let's actually see if that is the issue. So in this case, I cannot go below this speed. So in that case, I would have to say that you have to be, well, Konamiya doesn't really matter to how much speed it is because it's just fight set. You're going to make that work anyways. So the two important ones are those two. And I would keep the Homunculus at a 53. That probably is the easiest way for you. And then the Tion on the 60. So with that, it is probably the easiest way to go for it. And if we would do this properly, I would have to say in, I was mistaken where I get the 100 exactly. I think we get the 100 in there. And then we get the Homunculus 100 after this one. So that's the one over here. So 100 in here. No, whoops, wrong one. 100 in here. Does that make any sense? Yes, that does make sense because the boss is actually not that speed, but like 131 or something. Or like 129. So therefore you still outspeed. If you would do that in the normal stages, it doesn't outspeed like the full thing. But since you're outspeeding the boss, you do actually outspeed. So a little bit of the science behind it, why does it work? But you could go for, I would say that the Homunculus at the 53 is your safest bet. If you were to put it a little bit faster, it doesn't really matter too much actually, or it doesn't even matter at all. As long as you're not outspeeding your Konamiya, your Konamiya is not outspeeding your your Tesha. That's pretty much just about it. So the minimum speed on the Aprilia is 84, on the Tesha 47, Homunculus would be 40 or 53, Tion would be 60, and the Konamiya would have to be one speed above that, which would be 65-ish. Yeah, 65 exactly. So these are the minimum speeds for this team. If you go faster, just make sure that you're not overlapping or outspeeding one of the other units, because if you go, for example, this, you mess up the turn order because the Konamiya is too slow for the Homunculus. Simple as that, but that is just a little bit about the turn order that you also know what kind of speed you want to take. I just spoke with the owner of the account for a little bit, and he did tell me that the Konamiya at a higher speed tick makes it better for the right tower with the counters. That could be a thing. I haven't tested the team that well, but that could be definitely a thing that you want to be at least, what is that, 119? Yeah, 119, that Aprilia has to move in here. So In case that the team doesn't exactly work and you get counted at wrong moments, try out your Prilly at 119 plus, maybe that fixes things than the 84. That could definitely be a thing. Maybe I should try that on my account as well, where the counter happens at a different time. Something I would have to check, but then again, my team also hits more often and this team hits less often. So because of this team hitting less often, because you have one unit that just gives the boost rather than a damage skill in the Luna, does make a lot of sense. Definitely does make a lot of sense. So yeah, actually you have to go probably for that 119, because otherwise you get counted in a different moment. So, okay, good to know, good to know. Maybe something I'll test on my team as well. Let's see if that makes any difference, because to be honest, I'm not 100% sure. And in the end, Prilly doesn't really need to do that much damage anyway, so. That is pretty much just about it. Just wanted to showcase like a different style of a team. If you have any teams that are very different, maybe easier to obtain, easier to rune, or anything that you would like me to showcase, that, of course, I'm not going to showcase like a team that is exactly the same with like just different rune quality or stuff like that. I would like to show something different every time. But if you have a dungeon team for pretty much any dungeon and you would say like, hey, maybe this is interesting, just hit me up in Discord, we can talk about it. Maybe I'll just say like, hey, sorry, it's not that interesting, I already have a video on it. But if it's something interesting, I'll definitely have a look at it and probably make a video like this. So, hope you enjoyed this video and definitely hope to see you in the next one.